You finally find that perfect new hire. And then they start their first day. They're super excited. They come in right on time, and you're thinking, okay, this is it. And then they kind of sit there the first day. And you talk with them about, oh, here's some things to dive into. Here's our Google Drive. Here's our Asana. Here's our ClickUp boards. And they're doing a little bit. But another day goes by, and another day goes by. And you're at the end of week one, and you're like, what is this person doing? I needed someone to come in and get started right away. Why are they just sitting around? Now, what about the other situation? You hire someone, it's their first day, and immediately, first meeting, they're raising their hand, they're making suggestions, they're saying, hey, here's how we do this in my previous job, here's what I think we should do. And everyone on your team is looking around like, who brought this guy in? And they start to kind of piss some people off really early. And it's the third meeting they're in, and they're thinking they're calling the shots, going to change everything around. And by the end of the first week, you're thinking, whoa, this person came in way too strong. Now, both these scenarios, this is what happens when you haven't thought through how you want to approach onboarding. And this is something that we have to get right so that the new hires we spent so much freaking time and energy trying to bring in actually last, actually can thrive, can be successful, especially in the context of your broader team. Because when we don't get this right, this is where all that effort really goes to waste. And it's something that I see happen every single day. So that's why I want to solve this. I'm Leah Garvin, and this is the new Manager Playbook, where I am dedicated to making it easier for you to be a manager. I want managing your team to be the easiest part of your job. And so in the show, I share tips, tools, strategies, stories, all the good stuff to make managing a little bit easier. And since hiring's so freaking hard, onboarding is something we really, really, really want to focus on, because it is where we take all that energy and we really make or break the situation. I know last week I talked all about how to avoid some big hiring mistakes. This is something that is the part one, right? The hiring, taking enough time, right? Avoiding hiring divas, right? We're making sure we're paying people the right amount so they're not just walking out the door soon. Now we take that, and then what happens day one? What happens week one? What happens month one, right? Now, the situation of people coming in way too strong or being way too reserved, this, as I said, this is a product of not having set any expectations around onboarding. And so that's really where I think we go wrong, is we don't really establish a process. We don't really think about it. And that doesn't happen because we are bad at our jobs or we're not thoughtful people. Usually when we bring someone on, it's because we are spread so thin. We needed this role so bad. We might have been doing this job ourselves. And so when someone finally walks through the door, it's like, yes, okay, go take it. I don't have time for this. But that sort of running without thinking about it, that's just as bad as if we didn't think about who we wanted to hire in the first place. Because I got to ask you, how is that person going to know if you want them to jump in and roll up their sleeves and start solving problems? Or if you want them to come in really slow and be more in this absorbing mode? The person's not going to know that. So I want to share an example of a challenge that, a person I was coaching several years ago, she was an engineer at a tech company, and she joined, and, she was more junior. She was right out of college. And so she was really nervous about asking questions, right? She wanted just to show you made the right choice. You hired me for the right reason. And so her manager said, okay, here's where you find the code to look at. Here's some files to kind of get up to speed with the team. Here's our intranet. Let me know what questions you have. And as I was coaching this woman, she came to me because she was really struggling with the onboarding. She was spending hours and hours pouring through documents, trying to figure things out herself because, well, she didn't know what questions to ask her manager. She didn't know what she didn't know. She didn't know what she was supposed to know. And she didn't know his expectation for the onboarding. And so she literally hours and hours in the evening, muscling through things, trying to connect the dots, trying to figure out, well, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because she didn't know what questions. And frankly, she was early in her career. She didn't want to bother him. And she didn't want to come across like she doesn't know, or that he'd think like, whoa, this is who I hired. And so we've got to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that we're bringing in. Because when someone joins a team, there is imposter feelings. They're new. Whenever we're new, we feel imposter feelings, right? So think about your team member coming in, trying to get the lay of the land on your team, in your company, in your business, whatever it is. And they, don't want to come across as like, I don't know things, or I said I was really good at this and now I need help, right? They don't want to do that. they don't want to bother you a lot of times. Sometimes you're going to say, oh, my new hires are fine bothering me. Okay, but there's a lot of times where someone doesn't want to bug you, or they don't know when it's the right time to ask you. Now let's flip that, right? It could also be they're bothering you constantly and you wish that there were some boundaries set, right? So let's say they're not sure the right way to be communicating with you. Maybe they shouldn't be communicating with you at all. Maybe there's someone else they should be going to. So when you put yourself in someone's shoes, they come into this new place, they have no idea what you expect of them at all, right? How would they know? And even if you just said a little bit in the interview process, they don't know. They're walking through the doors. It's a clean slate. Now, the other thing that's going through this person's mind is they might have uprooted their whole life to come and work on your team. They might have relocated. They might have left a job that they liked, but this was a better opportunity. They might have been in the middle of a really long job search, and this is a huge adjustment for them. And the more we think about what this person is going through, the more we can think, okay, well, what would the right transition here look like? Not that you design a new onboarding process for everyone, but just bringing that empathy and that compassion, right, to the process that, hey, if someone, that this is why we bring a thoughtful onboarding process, right? It's not to change it, but it's because someone is coming in a situation of being a little bit vulnerable. Now, the last thing I want us to remember when we think about this new hire, put ourselves in their shoes, is the most excited someone will ever be is on that first job, right? Because they came here, it's like, yes, I have a new thing, let's go. The most excited someone's ever going to be. And so if you blow it with onboarding or don't have anything, or they're just kind of like, oh, I don't know what you want or what this looks like or where to find anything, I'm just kind of sitting here trying to like say, hi, I'm new. If someone feels really uncomfortable, you're going to take that excitement from a 10 to like a 2 in the matter of hours. Like, why would you do that? And how do I know? Because I have been there. So when I got my first job in tech, I was living in San Francisco and I had a job that I loved. I was working at a branding design agency. It was super close knit. It was such a fun environment and I loved it. But I got an email that said, hello from XYZ tech company. And when I got that email, I knew this was going to change my life. Because I had always wanted to work in tech and it was a huge opportunity. I'm not an engineer. I don't come from that background. So to be recruited to work in tech was a huge deal. Now, mind you, I was living in San Francisco. My husband was in school. And so if I were to take this job, it required me relocating by myself. But I said, okay, well, we decided, it's worth it. We have a strong relationship, it'll put a little bit to the test, but this was a career opportunity of a lifetime. So I fly up there to Seattle, I do the interviews, I crush it, I get the job. And I end up having to move there on my own, get a studio apartment because we have our other apartment in San Francisco. But again, it's worth it, okay? This is going to really open up this whole new career path. First day comes, I'm all dressed up, I drive, I park in the parking lot, the admin for the team meets me in the lobby and she walks me up to our floor and into my office. And I think, oh my God, I have an office, I've really made it. And then she says, okay, just get settled in. We don't have your computer yet. And your manager's, she's at an offsite today and tomorrow. So just, kind of just get settled in and let me know if you need anything. So I sat there from 8:30 until about 5, having no idea what to do, no computer, no hello, letter from my manager. No one stopped by my office. I had to kind of wander around and figure out where the bathroom was, figure out where the lunchroom was. And I sat there all day thinking, why did I do this? This was the biggest mistake of my life. I put my relationship in jeopardy. I've rented a second apartment. I'm financially out. What? I was devastated. And why was that? Because my manager hadn't thought about, she was busy. She had this offsite to be at. She hadn't thought about what the experience might be for someone day one when they've moved across the coast, right? I moved 800 miles away, what that might be like for them. That maybe you would just write a little note and leave it on their desk, right, for their first day. But she didn't do that because she was living her own life. But the truth is, it's because she hadn't thought about onboarding and what that would be. And I don't want you to be in that same situation because I don't want your team members to be in the situation that I was in. Because I'll tell you, that excited feeling that I came in, into the building with, into the parking space and up that elevator with, I never got it back. because sitting there all day feeling like, gosh, nobody even cares. I uprooted my whole life. What have I done? All that second guessing started my baseline so low that it kind of was like, it really deflated the whole thing completely. And they say that people decide if they're a long-term fit in a company within the first 6 months, I think I've read. I decided it within the first 6 hours that day. That experience showed me this manager doesn't really care. They're not really thoughtful. They're not really looking out for me and my experience. And again, I don't fault her for that. She was a busy person. She had a lot going on. This role is something that she had been waiting for a long time because she had been having to cover the job. But it doesn't account for the fact that that employee on the other side, they're a person, just want to feel like someone cared that I showed up. So that's what I'm talking about with onboarding. Whatever our process looks like, whatever tools that we have, whatever, if we do a lunch or a coffee or whatever we're doing, we've got to do something. Okay, because if we don't, you are going to lose that enthusiasm. You're going to heighten those imposter feelings, and you're also not going to get the output you want. Because if you think about those two examples I shared in the beginning, someone that comes in and they don't really do a lot, and everyone's like, why'd you hire them? Or they come in like, I'm going to fix everything here, and everyone's like, whoa, slow down. That's also a first impression. Like, you have so much control over making sure that your new hire has a successful first impression with the team. Right? That's on you because they don't really know. So they're just trying to guess, and maybe they're going to use what they did in their previous job. If it's a situation where you need them to either go fast or go slow, why don't you just tell them that? Right? And so onboarding is one of those things. It's, there's some best practices. I talk a lot about those in my book, The New Manager Playbook. So check it out. But once we do it, this is something that becomes, we repeat it, we refine it, we ask our new hires like, hey, how'd it go? What would you change for the next time? And it becomes just kind of an embedded part of your team. So it's not something that takes weeks and weeks to develop. It's not something that even takes a lot of hours to develop. It's just thinking about it. And then when you do that, you ensure that this new hire, right? We talked about it last week, that we have worked so hard to bring in, that we made sure so thoughtfully that we found the right person that's going to be a fit and is going to be able to here to last, that they will last because they were set up for success out of the gate. All right. And if you need support with an onboarding process, this is something that I absolutely work with teams on. Leave me an email. No, send me an email at hello@leahgarvin.com to learn more. And again, also in the New Manager Playbook book, I have a lot of information on how to do this right. All right. So this is something we do not want to avoid. It is part of getting hiring right. It is a simple thing that, when done well, really, it keeps you on that excitement trajectory. And it's like, there's no one to blame if we mess it up, if we don't do it, than ourselves, because doing anything is better than doing nothing. All right. If you need support, you know who to call, and you've got this. See you next time.